So our next bills is House File 4306, the Omnibus Pension Bill. I want to welcome our mighty committee chair, Chair Murphy, to the Ways and Means Committee. Welcome, Chair Murphy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. House File 4306, I didn't think of as the Omnibus Pension Bill in the sense that it was an independent bill brought, but I convinced all the members of the LCPR to the Democratic members to join me as authors.
All right, thank you. So Vice Chair Olson, would you like to move House File 4306 to get the bill before the committee?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I understand there's also a couple of authors' amendments you'd like to have offered to get the bill in the shape that you'd like to present it. Vice Chair Olson, would you like to move the H4306 DE3 amendment on behalf of the author?
Madam Chair, I move the DE3.
Okay.
And Madam Chair and Representative Olson, there's a technical amendment, the A2 amendment, that makes two clarifications in the DE3.
So Chair Olson, would you like to move the A2 amendment to the DE3?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move the A2 amendment, which is the amendment to the DE3.
All right. So Chair Murphy, please explain the amendment to the amendment.
Madam Chair, I really want, before I explain all that, I would like to thank the people in Nonpartisan House Research and fiscal analyst Helen Roberts and Patrick McCormick, and Matt Gehring, and the LCPR legislative staff, Susan Lancheski and Chad Burkett and Lisa Dieslin for all their help, especially Wednesday and Thursday of last week and Monday and Tuesday of this week. And they caught the errors that were in the changing DE1 and DE2 that you've never seen. And so we come to the DE3, which is basically downsizing of the original 4306, which was a $1 billion bill.
Okay.
That we need a change in the system. We need a way in the financial system of running the state of Minnesota and cities and counties and public employees that work in every single part of the state that are members of the public employee pension funds. And all the people that serve the people of Minnesota and are the connecting people in every part of our state need to be represented at the financial table in a much better way than they ever have. We have the LCPR, which is the solution of bringing all those people and the state pension plans, the 9 state pension plans, together and solve all their problems. But we do not have a budget, a way of gathering finances for increasing the budgets. at all, anywhere, as a line item. Not in the governor's budgets, not in the state agencies' budgets, and I thought a few years back in this century, when I was chair of state government finance, that was going to be the answer. But I was not able, as that chair, to make that decision. We only have ways of getting new money into the pension funds from the state treasury by having a crisis and a bill to solve it. Or we could have recommendations from the governors, Democratic governors, Republican governors, every governor could make the change and say, we are going to take so much money when they're predicting what kind of money they have in the forecasts and all that, and say, this is the amount we're going to dedicate to the pensions of the people of Minnesota. But we don't have that mechanism. And so I go in pension commission in this century and 2 or 3 years of the last century and make my rants about like this, bringing to the attention that at some times we need new money. We have a wonderful State Board of Investment with very talented directors in the past. And lately, really talented director, 2 really talented directors the last few years. And we were getting wonderful returns on our investment decisions. And that's what's kept things going. But when we have a crisis, then we have to always beg for funding from Treasury to this. In the last few years, I've been working with the agency directors of MMB and Revenue, trying to convince them to become part of the governor's budget processes. But we have not been successful. But I did make a comment on a regular basis. And I thought I was going to get it in for when Governor Walz became governor. But the person I thought was going to get it in changed jobs. And so that fell through too. And so here I am with House File 4306. And I thought, this is the year then. We'll get the governor's attention. We'll get the people's attention. We'll get the representatives' attention. We'll get the Senate attention. We'll offer a $1 billion bill. And we'll have to talk about how money gets into the pension funds. But I made comments and I made my rants and I made my calls. And in the supplemental budget, the Governor Walz, had a one-time appropriation to raise COLAs for the people that are members of the public employee, the former public employees that are members of the pension funds. $73 million. Not $1 billion, but 73 million. And I had the bill, 4306. And I thought, well, I can amend the bill, and I can get a target, and I can work with what the Pension Commission has been doing from January to now, this year, and we can make some accommodations. Because the governor was becoming involved and the finances were becoming involved. But I don't have a fiscal note on this because in 4306, I left a blank on the assumption rates that the plans directors really were talking about for the last January, February, and March of this year. And I didn't know if we were going to decide to go from 7.5 to 7% or not. And so I left a blank for that. And so when we asked for a fiscal note, we couldn't get it because they don't do blanks. So I had to make a decision, and yes, and we went to 7. Not my personal choice, but the choice that made the most political sense in the fact that the directors had a lot more ammunition for their 7% than I had for 7.5. And so that's that part of the delete DE3 is it says 7, and we put in for a fiscal note, and because of the holiday, it did not. It hasn't come through yet, but it will before you're finished.
Okay.
And the plan directors won on that article, but there is direct state aid in here for the plans. And there was a time in the teens of this century when communication wasn't so great. And in 2016, the governor vetoed the bill that passed out of the Pension Commission. And the years 15, 16, 17 weren't such good years for everybody. And there was a little bit of shortchanging to 3 plans that I mentioned in Article 1. And this bill will correct that shortchanging. And the rest is just a one-time, 2-time cost of living, not just, is a cost of living increases for the retirees that are in the pension plans, the 9 pension plans, all of them.
All right, well, thank you.
And so I ask for your support. I ask for your understanding. And I ask for you allow this to go forward, and there will be probably a DE4 at some point in time, or whatever happens to it. But it is time that we all get people to think about the promises that are made when we tell people, when they first take a job and they're put in to our pension funds. We can't be Big Brother without new money from Big Sister coming along on a regular basis. Every single time the budget is considered, we should be considering the promises that are made to the workers when we hire them and tell them what a good place the state of Minnesota is, or what good county employee you would make, or what good city or township officer and employee you would make. And we can't desert people after they've retired and they get to live wherever in Minnesota they want or wherever they want. But they're in every one of our districts, those past employees, and that their pensions deserve to be considered on a yearly basis or bi-yearly basis for the permanency. It's wonderful to receive. There were years when we received, as a teacher, I received thank you letters from people 102 years old or 103 years old that got a 13th check, because that was a little bonus and they were able to help the grandchildren or great-grandchildren with their college tuition or just giving them a graduation present. Our pension decisions affect every family, every person, from birth to death in Minnesota. We connect with those people. And we can't lose sight of them as people.
And let's not lose sight of them, Chair Murphy. I just want to thank you for your thoughtful, informational, passionate insight into the pensions in this bill that you have brought before us. Just want to thank you for that. But, so for the members, we have the A2 amendment to the DE3 before us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion prevails and the amendment to the amendment is adopted. We also, I heard Chair Murphy go through the DE3, which is also before us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. The motion prevails and the amendment as amended is adopted. Members, do you have any questions? Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Murphy, you caught my attention, not just by the red blouse you're wearing. We talked about that on the way over, but also by your very eloquent words about pensions. We served together for a number of years on the Pension Committee, and I think
You remember the rant?
it's not the first time. But I also remember serving with you in 2018 when we quite literally changed the direction of the pensions to get them back to a fully funded state over a number of years. And that didn't come without compromise, and it didn't come without our appreciation for how we needed to get that work done. And it was not a light lift, if you will. So when we bring this forward, and I know I'm not going to get into the technicalities because I know that you're going to be presenting this before the Pension Committee next week, if that's my correct understanding. My only question, or maybe two, Representative Murphy, is how does this align with any endeavors, efforts in the Senate? And I'm not trying to compare, but is there alignment for this initiative coming before the pension committee with the rest of the members?
Chair Murphy.
Madam Chair, this has a companion in the Senate. Senator Frantz, who is also on the Pension Commission, is the chief author, and he has other authors. And I don't know that, but we have, I don't know any more beyond that at this time, because it pretty much happened in the last weekend.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Murphy, one technical question, and it just goes to, I know it in the bill that you are increasing the COLA, but at the same time, you're reducing the expected rate of return. So on the one hand, there's more outflow, but a target of less earnings. In consideration of what we accomplished in 2018, to work towards fully funding of our pension plans, would it be fair to say that your bill enhances or distracts from the work that we had in 2018?
Chair Murphy.
Madam Chair, I think it enhances because we're moving forward and we are addressing the immediate need of telling the recipients that the state of Minnesota cares about what's happening to them today. And it pays for the change that we're making today. But it doesn't promise that that's going to happen again. That's up to the new legislature in the next financial budget year. And it's up to the governor and the LCPR, which will be new people in the next year.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Nelson. Chair Nelson, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and this is more of a comment. We've in the Pension Commission this year, we've heard a lot about the assumed rate of return, and all the funds have endorsed lowering that rate of return. Now, that doesn't change anything that's going in to the fund. It's just looking out in the future as far as the funding status of the plans, that by assuming a 7.5% return, if we don't get that, we actually fall short. By lowering it to 7%, and we earlier, a couple years ago, part of, I think, the 2018, we lowered the assumed rate of return from 8.5 to 7.5. It just basically, it's a more realistic look at what we're going to return on the funds. The advisors, the actuaries are all saying that 7.5 is too high. We're in the higher end of pension plans around the country with that. By lowering the rate of return, it doesn't change anything going in there. It doesn't change how the returns are. We're just going to assume that we're not going to make that 7.5%. It'd be like me going buying a lottery ticket and winning $1,000 on the lottery ticket and assuming I'm going to do that every week. That's not going to happen. And then basing my spending on that, having that extra grand in my pocket every week. So by doing this, we're basically taking a more realistic look at the returns the funds are going to do. And this last year, we had some really good returns, but in the past years, we've had lower returns, and consistently the State Board of Investment has done a good job of beating, even at the 8.5, the rate of returns that we're having. It's just that we want to be more realistic going in the future, that looking at how the returns are going to come in, and so that if we don't get that 7.5 or we don't get the 7%, we are actually not having to dip in and put more money into these funds out of the general fund. And hopefully they can self-sustain that way.
Thank you for that clarity. Seeing any other questions? Seeing none? Okay, good. Chair Murphy, do you have any closing comments?
I don't,
Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't know. There's people that have been working with pensions for a long time in the audience. I don't know if anyone came to testify or not. But I really appreciate your consideration, and I appreciate the opportunity that the speaker has given the retirees and present employees of Minnesota for having a target.
Well, thank you, Chair Murphy. So what we're going to do, the Chair will temporarily lay House File 4306 as amended over. Thank you, Chair Murphy.
Thank you very much.